Hello, this is Bradley Needham. I will be talking about the different iterators in the STL. There are 5 different categories. Notice that I said categories instead of type. This is because iterators in the STL are pure abstraction, meaning they don't inherit from a base type. If something provides the interface of an iterator, then it is considered an iterator. So here are the 5 categories. There's input iterators, output iterators, forward iterators, bidirectional iterators, and random access iterators. The iterators that each STL container supports will be in one of the last 3 categories, so I'll focus this discussion on them. So the containers that only support forward iterators are forward list and the unordered associative containers. So let's use a forward list. Notice I've include files for output, forward list, list, and vector, as those will be the collections that I will be using in this example. So if I have a forward list of ints, my collection, and I'm going to initialize it with some values. Okay. Then the iterator that is returned to me from begin, so I'll use auto iterator equals collection.begin. This iterator here is a forward iterator. So what does a forward iterator allows me to do? It allows me to walk forward over the collection, passing over each element. So I can have a loop as long as my iterator itself is not equal to the end iterator from the collection. I can increment the iterator to walk over it. Okay, so then I'm going to print out the value in the iterator followed by a space. So let's run this. So I get out the contents of my list, 1, 2, 3, 4, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5. Now the things that a forward iterator can't do is I cannot subsequently then take the iterator that I had and go back a space. Notice that I get the compiler doesn't like this and is telling me, hey, there's an error here. If I try to compile and run it, it'll basically say cannot decrement a value of this type. So this does not provide a decrement operator because it does not allow it to go backwards. I also could not take the iterator itself and try to jump to a position by maybe adding 4 to it. Again, the compiler is not going to allow me to do that and gives me an error saying no viable overload for the plus equal operator. So a forward iterator just allows me to go forward through iteration, and that's of course what's supported by the forward list collection. You always have to remember in the STL that efficiency was one of the major design goals of the STL. So if you could not provide the functionality without being efficient, they weren't going to provide it in the collection itself. Of course, we could provide iterators that allowed for either this type of jumping to a position or walking backwards over a forward list, but it would not be very efficient and it would cause a lot of extra overhead to do so. And so again, that's why it doesn't exist in the iterator that the collection itself provides. Alright, so let's go ahead and move now to a list instead of a forward list. Get rid of this. And in this case, we can actually now decrement the iterator. So let's say minus iterator. And notice that we don't get the compile time error here, and we can print out that value. We'll put a indel before that too. Alright, and see it prints out the last element because we decremented it back past the end of the iteration. However, we still, of course, cannot jump to a particular position. This still gives the same error that this type of iterator does not have a viable overload for plus equal. So let's go ahead and try a vector which supports a random access iterator. So the collections that support random access iterators in the STL are vector, dec, and array. And that's because these are implemented underneath with this very close to C array looking data structures. And so they can provide this random access just like a regular pointer would be able to into the collection or into an array. So if I have vector, notice all this works here, and including the plus equal 4, I can then go ahead and you notice that the jump here, the output no longer has 1, 2, 3, 4 because I basically took the iterator and jumped it past the first 4 elements and started with the element 9. Okay, I hope that helps.